Okay, students, let's have a look at network protocols, part of topic 4. 4.16 is the reference for it. Edexcel, GCSE Computer Science. Different aspects to remember here will be, well, let me just list them out. So, what are the protocols? Protocols are going to be HTTP, which stands for Hypertext Transfer. Protocol. HTTPS, which stands for secure, so payments essentially. FTP, which is pretty old by the way, even from the 70s. This is to do with file transfer. Not the greatest protocol because it often saves passwords in plain text. It's effective, it does work. SFTP, which is beyond the scope of this GCSE, which uses port 22, I believe, is a better one to use. It's more secure, but don't worry about that in terms of GCSE. And we've got emails as well, so there's going to be POP3, which is not used that much anymore, IMAP, which is used a lot, and SMTP, which is for sending, which is like ports 443, I believe. Anyway, I'm only telling you about ports because of things like firewalls. You can stop certain ports from being open and closed. So if you really wanted to prevent emails from being sent out, you could stop port 443, for example. Let's say there was a compromised email system. Let's go through them individually. So these are all protocols which are running across local area networks, LANs, either over Ethernet or Wi-Fi. Wireless LAN is what that stands for, or wireless LAN is Wi-Fi, not WAN, which is a wide area network. So I'm going to put here, it's not WAN. That's the misconception that you could have. So local area network, either Ethernet, combination of Ethernet and wireless LAN, Wi-Fi. Obviously, that can be blocked by walls and things like that. So Ethernet's more stable, can be 100-meter range on copper, and typically using something like Cat5e provides, I think, gigabit transfer speeds. So it's pretty fast, and you'll have to facilitate these. You're going to have a computer with an NIC, network interface card. So network interface. I mean, these are all things that everything has built in now, but computers used to buy them, put them in to allow for Wi-Fi. Now every device you can think of probably has, even your toothbrush probably has it. So the protocols HTTP, this essentially governs how browsers access a web page from a web server, which we talked briefly about with domain name systems and IP addresses, and it delivers the web page data. That's what Tim Berners-Lee set up. HTTPS allows for an encryption. So, for example, you'll be using that. I think most websites now have to be HTTPS, which means they have to have a certificate, essentially proving who they are, and also, there's certain securities that the server has to adhere to. But essentially, if you're paying for something on the internet, your website needs to be running HTTPS to encrypt data. For FTP is for transferring files between a client and a server and uploading. So typically people managing servers will use FTP to upload and download things to that server. It's pretty straightforward. Not very secure, but pretty straightforward. And then the ones that you'll probably need to really be careful about in the test are the difference between these two are. So SMTP is for sending emails. It's what we use. Okay. Simple mail transfer protocol. Simple mail. POP3 was popular because, pun intended, when internet speeds and mobile connections weren't all that great, and you would often get the choice. You'd have to set up your emails on a device. Now it's mostly done automatically. You would choose POP3 or IMAP, and you choose POP3 if you wanted to receive your messages on the device. Okay, so if you're retrieving an email from an email server to your device, and it deletes, that's the key thing here, is it deletes message on email server once downloaded, right? And there might be situations where you want to have that email on your device only and not languishing somewhere else. So there may still be occasions where people use it. Generally though, most people now use IMAP because that allows you to access email on a web server. So I'm going to put multiple devices. Think Outlook, think cloud. If you wanted to access your emails from your phone, your tablet, and your laptop, all from one place, or using like a little web portal, it's going to be IMAP. So it also syncs devices. Okay, so that's pretty huge. That's the main consideration there. Let's have a look at some questions. Describe one difference between POP3 and IMAP email protocols. Well, it is a describe question, so you need to have a sort of linked explanation, 2 marks. I just went over it essentially. So you want to talk about the fact that POP3 deletes messages on the server and downloads to your device, whereas IMAP allows emails to be synced across different devices and stays on the server. That would be more than enough to get your 2 marks. You tell the examiner you know exactly what you're talking about. Network protocols control rules of communication. Okay, this is a strange question. Name a network protocol that transmissions from other electrical devices can interfere with and be blocked by walls. Well, I'll just go with Wi-Fi. If you've got a microwave going on in your kitchen, or some sort of television that's pumping out its own Wi-Fi signal, that would be simple answer there. Name the network protocol used to download music from a server. This is a weird question. Technically, I guess FTP, but not a great question. Don't like that question. General public are not using FTP to download things in the same way. But anyway, that will be the answer. That's the only one that's close. Network protocols govern how data is transmitted between devices. Complete the table with the network protocol for each description. Okay, right, so this is a little bit weirder. Allows two computers to establish a connection across a network. Well, the easy answer is Ethernet. Okay, that's the easy answer. Technically, there's another video about this. You could also put TCP, transmission control protocol, but Ethernet's the easy answer. Allows connection to a network using radio waves. Well, Wi-Fi uses radio waves. Bluetooth, that would be fine. Short range. Allows upload and downloads of files. Well, that's the FTP. But you probably could get away with saying HTTP as well. I'd go with the safest option, file transfer protocol there. Good. Just to put one more thing on here before we go. SSH is a way that we can upload and download files. So typically, I mean, because FTP is so antiquated and old and not that secure, typically you would now SSH using a special sort of encrypted key to the computer that you're talking to, and you can use SFTP as well to allow connections as a user with higher privileges. So SSHing into a computer server is what computer server maintenance people will do to check the server and to maybe carry out commands on the server. And they can often do it even just from their phone, because they just use what we call the command line. So you can SSH into a web server and just like give it a little command, like change directory or something, and you don't have to have your graphic interface to do that. But that's a bit beyond the scope of what we need to do. Hopefully this gives you a bit of help regarding the difference in those email protocols. That's the main one to remember.